I believe next we have the roll call. Is that correct?
Yes. We have Dale Cox,
Yes.
David Smelser,
Here.
Dan Wilkins.
Yeah.
And Vice President Scott.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now we'll move on to the public comment. Do we have any public comments? Please.
Good morning, everyone. President Harrison, members of the board, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Cox, Mr. Schmelzer, Mr. Wilkins, my dear coworkers, and the management members. My name is Soraya Bezos Force. And Mr. Burt.
No problem.
So I'm going to start with two quotes from one of my favorite authors that I think I would like to open with those two quotes. He who does not understand your silence will probably not understand your words. Elbert Hubbard. To avoid criticism, do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. I started working at TTSA on July 6, 2021, hired as the CMMS GIS technician. I find it challenging to talk about myself, so perhaps it's easier to share the most common compliment I get, which could reveal something unique about who I am. In my case, the most common compliment I receive is that I am brave and inspiring. So I will explain how I take pride in who I am. I approach life with a curiosity of a child, asking always questions. I'm curious about people's experiences, how the world works the way it does, and how I can make a meaningful impact. So if you want to know about me, now that I'm driven, know that I'm driven every single day by an insatiable curiosity. I would like to take this opportunity to share my gratitude for what the agency has done for me and my family over the last 3.5 years. In my case, a good paying job and great lasting friendships. I am here with a heavy heart and a strong resolve to share my experience working on the Richard Palante and his management team. On the surface, it would appear Richard is a leader that you hope can right all the wrongs that you have been told or led to believe about the agency. This is not the case. Since his promotion to the general manager position, there has been a complete turnaround of previous agency goals and priorities. He is not managing the agency. He is managing his and his close work friends' retirement. His management decisions are based on what will keep those that threaten his retirement happy and not what is best in the interest of the agency. Unfortunately, he has surrounded himself with others that manage the same way. He likes the yes man. I will now direct my comments to Richard. Working under your management has been a journey, both adventurous and torturous. I am grateful for the resilience and patience I have gained while being stuck under your boot. Thanks to you, I count down on my resume hundreds of days filled with stress, anxiety, and frustration. Your leadership style has left a trail of demoralized and disheartened employees, and one by one, they have been fired or are leaving for, according to you, not legitimate reason or because they were a problem, toxic, or no good. Any employee that has wanted to make a positive difference has been demoralized by you in the past. Fortunately for you, the employees that want to do as little as possible and have no accountability appreciate you. Thanks to you, I have learned not to manage and lead people. With you and your management team, I have learned how to destroy people's morale and confidence. Because of you, I have learned tactics on how to demotivate and inspire. I am grateful for the guidance you have not provided me throughout the years. You might be confused and asking yourself why people are so demoralized or frustrated. There's a common denominator: poor leadership. It's not because I am toxic or conflictive employee, as you may be told and you will be told. Bad leaders lack empathy, play favorites, communicate poorly, or are just plain difficult. Things our team has had to endure under your leadership at our toxic workplace. Being labeled to being too difficult to work with, criticizing without any prior indication that there was a problem with my performance or personality. Having our skills questioned despite never failing to perform on par or beyond our expectations. Unpredictability when it comes to daily tasks, targets, and obligations. Self-centeredness.
Excuse me for just a moment. We have a 5-minute length that we can, so I just, yeah, we've got like another minute. So,
Yes.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
Self-centeredness, prioritizing your own interests over the team. Having to walk on eggshells around others' unstable emotions. Ignoring feedback, leaders who do not listen to their team members, disregarding valuable input. Working in demoralized, exhausted, and depressed team because of your hostility. Crying at least once a week at my desk because of your ostracizing behavior. Unfortunately for you, those are not signs of a strong team or successful leader, but rather a reflection of your own insecurities. You seem to thrive on creating an unhealthy work environment where fear, exhaustion, and intimidation are the norm. You have made it abundantly clear that you have no interest in fostering teamwork, cooperation, or personal growth among your subordinates. It is ironic that you're exactly what you claim others to be. Your inconsistency in setting expectations and your habit of playing favors have eroded any sense of fairness with our team. It is almost as if you revel in sowing discord and creating division among us, all for the sake of maintaining your illusion of control and conveniently
thank
shifting.
you.
Frank, can you please finish?
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
So from here and this works. Your inconsistency in setting expectations and your habit of playing favorites have eroded any sense of fairness within our team. It is almost as if you revel in sowing discord and creating division among us. All of the sake of maintaining your illusion of permanently shifting when things go awry. Your lack of accountability is staggering and is disheartening to see you deflect responsibility onto those who are simply trying to do their jobs. Despite the delusions that I owe you lifelong loyalty, you must understand I have a choice. Starting today, I choose not to tolerate your toxic behavior any longer. I choose to stand up for myself and for my colleagues who have suffered in silence for way too long. And I am not alone. I will now direct my final comments to the board. I am sure you will talk to Richard and Vicki after the meeting to see what this is all about. I will let you know that they will say that I'm a troublemaker and reference of past and current investigations. This is the trend when they wish to harass staff. I do ask that you do more than ask Richard and Vicki about me. Ask Richard why all of the recent promotions into supervisory or managerial positions are his close friends or those who has his Bible study classes with. Ask Richard why he has trouble with people with college degrees or educated that can intellectually challenge him. Plenty of questions with answers. There are plenty of questions that can show the character of Richard and his management team if you want to ask. What you ask is up to you. The information is there. I'm confident Richard will tell you that the asset management program is incorrect because of me. This would be a lie. As a Latin woman, over the 15 years in asset management, I have made continuous recommendations to him to improve the program. However, he has insisted in what I say as he cannot accept from being wrong. The biggest misconception in the belief that the CMMS or the other technology can solve problems that are underlying process or leadership issues. For example, if a company has no real direction or terms of maintenance capabilities, how it wants to do things, what is maintenance philosophy is, adding a tool on top of that isn't going to solve the problem. This is leadership challenge that needs to be addressed. A simple inquiry into the work order data to capture the work done, time spent responding and scheduling work orders, equipment costs will show you that lack of management accountability, even a review of your organization would show major deficiencies. I know I may or may not believe me as I speak to you now. However, it will be found maybe next week, maybe next month, maybe next year that I'm speaking the truth. However, raise concerns regarding the current leadership style, which is impacting team morale, hindering our ability to achieve goals, specifically the lack of clear direction, inconsistent communication has led to confusion among staff. It is your best interest to please take strict action against those above mentioned in this matter. Thank you. Saraja.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't get your.
I'm Frank Morris. Frank Morris.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Saraja's husband. Thank you for your time.
You bet. Any other public comments? Any written online?
Yes.
Okay, we will close the public comments and move to review and adopt the agenda. Would anyone like to pull or move any of the items for this agenda? Okay. Have a second. Yeah.
They can do it when we get to the consent items.
Right. I'm sorry.
Sounds like staff wants to pull an item when we get to the
Okay.
calendar.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Need to do a roll call since they don't have a vote.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Dale.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Now we'll move on to professional achievements. Vicki, please.
Good morning, Vice President Wilson and Board of Directors. Vicki Lufrano, Human Resources Administrator. And as we do on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, I would just like to acknowledge a couple of staff for their achievements. We did already last month acknowledge our new employee, which is Liz Cook, our new CFO and risk manager. So again, now official. Welcome, Liz. Thanks for joining us. And second, I would like to acknowledge an achievement of a staff, Jason Sutherland. He is our E&I Technician 3, and he has received his E&I grade 2 certification. And he did this within a short period of time. He's a fairly new employee. I believe he just started in July. He was not able to be here today for us to acknowledge in person, but nonetheless wanted to thank Jason for that achievement.
Thank you. Certainly Jason is showing some motivation to get things done that quick, huh?
Absolutely. Yes, he is.
Much appreciated.
Yes.
Now I guess we move on to the consent agenda.
And staff would like to pull item 2, the ratification of the payment of general fund warrants, and move it to regular agenda item 3. Due to only having one board member at the finance committee, we need to bring it to the floor.
Okay, thank you. With that, let's
I'll move the other item on the consent calendar,
Okay,
meeting minutes for December 18th.
do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Oh, wait, we have to do roll call because Dale,
Yes.
okay.
Director Cox?
Yes.
Yes.
Now we're on to the regular agenda. The appeal of the sewer service charges for APN 045-6901-014-000.
So, as general manager, I received an appeal for sewer service charges from this APN. Based on our rules and regulations, they are receiving sewer services and therefore need to be charged such. So I denied that appeal. They are now appealing to the board under the same basis. Celeste is here, can provide some background if there's any questions. This is a case of permitting an ADU unit, it has a kitchenette, it's the residential. We now need to charge services for the sewer that comes from that unit. Staff's recommendation is to deny the appeal.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I thought that was fair.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, probably for Celeste, and it's probably more curiosity. So as I understand it, there's like a single family residential lot up in town on her. It's got a house on it, and there's a separate garage with living space above it. And it sounds like there's only one connection out to TSD's sewer infrastructure. It's not like two sewer pipes that leave the property, there's just one. It sounds like, based on what I saw in the documentation, that in that kind of a scenario, we typically charge, if there's two independent living units, we charge for each unit independent of one another. That's how that works. Okay. And so the situation here is we were charging for one of the units, the other unit got billed, sounds like back in 2002. But for whatever reason, it hadn't been kind of captured in the town's documentation or TSD's documentation or ours, that there was this other unit that had been built there that came to our attention recently, I think through the permitting process that the town Truckee has, and then that's what caused us to adjust the sewer charges.
That is correct.
Okay, yeah, that all makes sense. So this would be consistent with any other property in our service area that has a similar configuration.
That's correct.
The way we're charging now is consistent with any number of other properties. So,
Yes.
How would that work in, say, from the start, from the get-go, the house on a property, and then someone puts a living unit, an additional living unit on it, would it require a complete hookup, new sewer line, water line, and the fees for?
The connection portion of it is handled by the member districts because they take care of that collection side of it. So whether they required an additional lateral to the home or not would be on them. If it's an ADU, it is exempt from connection fees, but they're not exempt from service fees. So that's how it works with ADU. And it's kind of an ever evolving situation because ADUs are becoming very popular and the legislature is trying to promote more and changing things to try and make them easier to build. So we still work every time one comes through to navigate that. Legal is working on updating kind of a flow chart for us to follow as they come in. But in general, that's where we stand with ADUs right now.
because there's a few different circumstances. This one is two separate buildings. Also circumstances where you can have like one building, like with an upstairs unit, downstairs unit. And in that scenario, it's basically, if it's got plumbing so that it can function as an independent living unit, we would always charge it a separate set of service fees.
Correct. And correct me if I'm wrong, Celeste, but like in this case, this residence could pull out the kitchenette, I think was what we were talking about this morning, kind of make it independently livable. And then it would be viewed as just part of the property.
So you have a bathroom and a shower
Yeah,
and bedroom, but if you have a bathroom, shower, bedroom, and a kitchen, the kitchen is what takes it over.
it's a kicker, yes.
So this is consistent with what we've had done in the past, correct?
Yes, it's how we interpret it. This is the first one in this situation I've seen.
Okay.
Others have been more ADUs being exempt from connection fees and that type of stuff, but, we haven't had any others like this in the past that I'm not aware of.
Review the nation case through a service charge. Just trees. Normally the people that are trying to connection.
Well, there may be more of these because there was a period of time where you couldn't do these ADUs like in Colorado, they didn't allow them. And state law, but there was still some there, you know? And then state law has been updated now where a homeowners association can't prohibit that.
Okay.
So you've got, you know, folks that are kind of coming onto the radar through the permitting process.
Okay.
For one reason. Sometimes it's because they want to do short-term rental.
Yep.
And that's a whole thing, but it's a little more regulated now. It's causing these kinds of situations to become known.
Do we need to vote to deny?
You do.
Okay, entertain a motion on
Also, moved.
I'm sorry?
Also, moved.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
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 Oh, it's a roll call. Thank you.
Director Cox.
Yes.
Thank you.
Director
Yes.
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 Motion approved.
Okay, now we will move on to the approval to receive and file the annual financial audits 2023, 2024 for fiscal year 24.
Good morning, members of the board. I'm here earlier for FY '24 audit than we did the FY '23 audit, so let's take a minute for that. Right, next year, the goal is to get even earlier, so we're setting those expectations now. Today we have Michaela Tallman from Davis Farr Auditor. She's the supervisor on the audit, and she'll actually be digging into the audit and giving you some of our results and letting you know how things turned out for us. So I will turn it over to you, Michaela, and I will stick with you on advancing the slides here that we can see.
Okay, perfect. Can everyone hear me? All right, well, it's nice to see everyone. As Liz mentioned, my name's Michaela. I am the in charge on the audit and have been for the last 4 years. I'm filling in for the partner, Jonathan Foster, today, and can hopefully get any questions you have answered. And if there's any questions that I'm unable to give you an answer for, then John has said that he's able to hop on a call at a future date whenever ready. All right, so to jump right in to the audit results, I'd like to give a big shout out to Liz and her team for the audit. We couldn't have done it without them, and we appreciate their help while we were on site and after the fact. Sorry, 1 second. So the reports issued is first the basic financial statements. We did issue an unmodified opinion. This is the highest level of assurance that we are able to state, and so no issues there. We also issued the summary of audit results and the report on internal control over financial reporting. We did have one recommendation on the internal control, but this recommendation, it's not related to any internal control deficiencies or material instances of non-compliance. This is a best practice recommendation, and we will be discussing this further in the slides. All right, and then on to the next areas of audit focus. The primary areas, we'll just touch on a few of the big ones. For cash and investments, we did confirm 100% of all cash and investment bank accounts, meaning we do not rely on your statements to confirm the balance. For capital assets, we did meet with individuals outside of finance to make sure that all projects are correctly recorded in either CIP or should be moved to fixed assets. Pension and OPEB liabilities is another large area of test work where we use information from your third-party actuarial reports to audit the accuracy of the OPEB liability and pension liability. The OPEB liability we will discuss further in the slides, as this is one of the major changes from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24. And then for significant risk, as a result of our significant risk assessment, we did review records of land from the agency, which, as mentioned, did result in an audit recommendation. Again, we will get into this in the next slide. And then lastly, we are required to incorporate an element of unpredictability into our audit procedures. This is an area that we test outside of our normal scope of procedures. This year, we did choose to review employee expense reports in which no exceptions or findings were noted. All right, on to the next one. We're just going to discuss the recommendation that was noted on the letter to the board a bit further. During our review of capital assets, we noted that the agency does record land in the aggregate. The land records should contain sufficient detail to identify specific parcels and/or property lines. The reason we decided to look into this is because at another client, this did pop up as an issue where they were in the process of trying to sell land. However, because they did not have any specific identifying information, it did make it very difficult for them to determine the historical cost, which again affects the accounting. And so with this in mind, we did have the recommendation that the agency review all land in possession and account for land using parcel numbers, or when parcel numbers are not available, using something like geographic information system to identify land boundaries. Once this has been done, a listing should be compiled and land in possession by the agency should be identified using that information, and then also have a historical cost assigned to each of those respective properties. Again, this did not result in any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. This is just a best practice recommendation and is something that would be good to implement going forward. To get into the financial statement highlights, starting with assets. Overall assets remain fairly consistent from prior year. The increase is mainly due to just positive operating results. And the most significant change that we'll see when comparing the balance sheet to prior year is the change of the OPEB asset into a liability based on the OPEB valuation. Okay, and moving on to the liabilities. Total liabilities slightly decreased from prior year. The primary reason for this is due to the normal repayment of the agency's debt. Again, the most significant change is the addition of the OPEB liability, which the amount is currently $945,000. The net position equity is fairly healthy at approximately $136 million. However, we do like to point out that about $72 million of this is non-cash items and non-liquid, which is your investment in capital assets. And so this is obviously not an amount readily available for use. And again, just another metric that we use as auditors to review the overall health of financial statements in the agency is the current ratio. This is where we measure current assets in comparison to current liabilities to determine the availability of resources to pay normal, pay normal obligations as they come due. And so the agent's current ratio is a positive 16, which means that you have sufficient available resources to pay those upcoming obligations. Do keep in mind that some of these resources may be dedicated to current capital projects, but overall, the current ratio is a positive. And then moving on to revenues and expenses. While the agency does show an operating loss, when you add back in property taxes and other non-operating revenues and connection fees, there is a positive increase in net position of 2.6 million for fiscal year 24. Property taxes are consistent revenue source for the agency. However, items such as investment income and connection fees do vary from year to year, and that will cause some fluctuation in the expected change depending on each fiscal year. All right, and our last slide is the OPEB liability. So as a result of the third-party actuarial evaluations over your OPEB obligations, there was a previously reported OPEB asset. However, this is now an OPEB liability. This excerpt that you see here on the slide is from Note 7 within the financial statements, and that demonstrates the change. This is a long-term obligation, so it's important to take note that this actuarial valuation is as of June 30 and does not necessarily indicate any long-term shortfalls. At this point, the plan itself is 93% funded. And with that, we've touched on the primary highlights for the fiscal year 24 audit. I'd like to open it up to any questions if there are any. And again, if there's any I'm unable to answer, then we'll be able to pass that along to John.
Got all kinds of questions. All right. Wait till next time.
Okay, you got it.
We'll get together.
You got it.
Not a question was issued in opinion word for word. Any questions? Nope. Dale, any questions?
No questions.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Michaela.
Thank you, Michaela.
We need an action to receive and file.
I'm sorry.
We need an action to receive and file the fiscal year 2024.
Okay. So we need a motion first. Also move. Roll call.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Okay, now we will move on to the approval and payment of the general funds warrants.
you good?
Yeah. that's-
I didn't bring that paper with me. but-
By the way, thank you guys very much for the hard work that you put in for that great result.
You did. You collected invoices.
Okay, well, as we noted earlier, the board warrant is usually on the consent agenda, easy for me to say, because it's been approved by the finance committee. At this week's finance committee or this month's finance committee, we had one board member present. We weren't able to approve it. So instead of ratifying, we want to change the action to approving. That's what we're reporting today.
Any questions?
No, I don't.
I'd move that we approve the payment of the general fund warrants.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Officer,
Yes.
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 motion approved.
And now we move on to the approval of the purchase of the Ford 350 dump truck. Oh,
Can
wait.
we do the financials first?
Oh, yes, excuse me.
I can sit down and come back and you just change the order.
I'm sorry.
So I got excited and started clicking before you could. So excited to get to the chart.
Good morning again. I'm here to talk about the December financials that were included in your packets. As noted, we are 50% of the way through the fiscal year. Who thought that would happen so fast, right? So in taking a look at this first chart, we're looking at revenues specifically for our general fund 10 and our capital fund 2 for wastewater capital projects. As noted in prior meetings, we don't look at fund 6 revenue here for our rehab capital because that is made up of interest from the fund. These actually have revenue sources coming into them. So for Fund 10, we're running slightly under. Again, the yellow dot represents what would be 50% of the revenue collected. We're slightly under to that, and some of that is due to the timing of the ad valorem. As we've discussed here previously, we accrue our sewer service charges as we earn them, not as the cash comes in.
because we're on the tax roll. Ad valorem comes in and gets booked when it comes in. So that's what's dragging that below the 50% mark. No concerns on our revenue projections whatsoever. Fund 2 revenue had a really good story this month. We had a huge connection fee for our local hotel. You will notice that the revenue and the cash do not align. Should be a red flag, should become a question. That's because they've been approved per our ordinance for a 12-month payment plan. So as we move forward through the next 6 months, we'll talk about revenue, but you'll notice the cash will increase faster than the revenues because of the payments on that payment plan. Any questions about revenue before I move to expenditures?
So say that again. So you're taking revenue up front and deferring the payment,
So we book it when it is billed as revenue,
the whole thing?
the whole thing.
Okay,
Yes, that has been the practice at the agency.
Good, thank you.
Let's take a look at our expenditures, and this one does include Fund 6, the Rehab Capital Fund, because it does have expenditures included in it. Again, 50% of the way through the year. Fund 10 is 40% of the way through their expended for their budget. Again, nothing stood out from an expenditure standpoint as an anomaly for the month, right? We get ahead in the beginning because we make some one-time payments, and now we've become status quo. I will pause here for a second and point out that in your packet, there was a revised November financials, and that was in there because the timing of the committees and the board meeting and the timing of posting payroll. Twice a year, you have pay periods that happen 3 times in the month. Normally it's 2. Based on the fact that these are public documents and we have to get them out, payroll was still processing in November when these numbers were written. And so I wanted to make sure that we pointed out to the board that there were higher expenditures in November than those financials you approved last month for November because of that additional payroll that was in process while we were doing it. Fund 2 expenditures are starting to creep up. We're still only at 17%. Some of that is timing. I would anticipate that in the next few months, we'll see some more invoicing coming in for work that's being done. Fund 6, as we talked about here before for projections, is very much under that 50%. We're sitting at about 3% expended, and that's going to stay that way throughout the rest of the year due to timing of projects. We had the conversation for the digestion improvement project, particularly that the work is going to be spread out into the future. So you'll see those expenditures come in for the next 2 years versus that 12 million that we had budgeted for this year. These comments and conversations will also be a part of the board of the budget when we bring it to the board, so that we'll be able to understand the timing of the construction. Any questions on expenditures before we take a quick look at cash? Here's our total cash balance. We're following the trend as prior years and slightly above, again, due to that rate increase. We have progressed through January and we have seen some tax money come in already this month, not reflected here because it came in January financials. So we are well on our way to shooting that chart up, following the trend, and I anticipate it being slightly higher than it was for the last 2 years, again, based on that rate increase that we have for this year. Any questions on the financials? Then one more action in room. This one.
Action approved. Okay, motion to approve. I so moved.
Second.
All righty. Roll call.
Director Cox?
Yes.
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 Motion approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Now we move on to the dump truck.
So Paul will give the staff.
Board of Directors, Paul Schaus, Maintenance Manager. So we recently sold our 1998, vintage 1998 Mack dump truck, which we purchased in the amount of $91,993.63. We sold that back on December 12th for $101,500. So surprisingly, we actually made a profit on that thing. But because we sold our dump truck, we do need to replace it. Because we don't need anything that large or that with that much capacity, we've decided to move on to an F-350 with a dump bed on it. That's going to be a lot more versatile for us. We can use it for snow removal, sanding, things like that. It's also smaller, modern design, more economical to operate on a regular basis. So we got a really good price on this through the State of California Department of General Services Group Sales Program, which we have an exemption in our purchasing policy directly through these types of group sales programs. So what we're recommending here is the approval to purchase a Ford F-350 with a dump bed from downtown Fort Sacramento through the State of California Department of General Services Group Sales Program for $100,798.51, which is less than the approved budget amount of $120,000.
Quick question, it's diesel, correct?
It is.
It is diesel.
It is diesel.
Okay.
Oh.
And can you kind of expand on why we went with diesel? Is it?
So diesel is going to give us a little bit more torque and things on that F-350 rating. Okay, we're doing everything we can to stay under a certain GVWR, okay, which is 14,000 pounds. If we stay at 14,000 or below, that gives us the ability to not go through the truckers program or the clean truck check program. It is, however, still on the advanced clean fleet. So it gives us that flexibility. The diesel is going to be much more efficient when you get below those GVWRs for snow plowing and the weights that we're anticipating putting this on this truck. Now, it's not going to be anywhere near the capacity of the old truck. But for the amount of times that we actually use it in a year, I think this is going to be more than sufficient for our use. And we've also found that there are rental trucks available with a larger capacity that we could get as needed, rather than owning that platform.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have one. Because we're currently regulated by the new CARB regulations, right, related to purchasing electric vehicles.
Yes and
How
no.
does this fit into that?
Yeah, so there's an influence, we're within Nevada County, so we're in one of the low population counties that are exempt until 2027. So we have until 2027 before we have to go 100% electrical. And we've got some discussions still internally on how we're going to get to that point. However, this will meet that current regulation.
I suggest you look at that. My understanding was that
Didn't read that part out.
my understanding is that regulation that the small county exemption only applies if 90% or more of your service area is within that small county, as compared to, I think, our situation where our service area is much greater. So we don't need to get into that now, but I just happen to be involved with this stuff in my job, and that's my understanding. Because I think TSD, because they have a portion of their service area that goes down into Mars Valley, I think they're actually not exempt, even though the bulk of their service area is the town of Truckee. My understanding is that they're not exempt because of that nuance. So I recommend we take a look at that just to make sure we're not sideways with the state's requirements.
Absolutely. Fortunately, there's a couple of different avenues that we can take with this, is my understanding.
Right.
Whether it's we do the phased approach, a percentage of our new vehicles are with the ZAB program, or we go full blown 100% in 2027. So we do have some avenues. We'll certainly look into it.
Right. So I'm okay with approving this, kind of subject to asking staff to confirm our compliance with the new CARB requirements and whether or not we actually are eligible for that small county exemption. And if we're not, I guess then the question is there some other way that we can purchase this vehicle that keeps us in compliance with the new requirements?
And what would be the benefit or non-benefit of going to gasoline?
So if we go to a gasoline to get capacities and the power that we're looking at, we're probably somewhere in that 550 range or something like that, which we could potentially do, but it may trigger some other concerns that we're not clear on at this point.
And gasoline doesn't solve that, the carbon requirement.
Okay.
That's an electric vehicle requirement,
All right.
which I think there may be another, if we're not eligible for the small county exemption, I'm not sure if there's electric vehicles that are available in that size, and there's the other way you can comply with the requirement is to demonstrate, and I think CARB may even have a list that the vehicle's just not available in an electric model.
Yeah, I've got those things that.
But there's like a bunch of paperwork they've created where you have to prove it. So, and I don't know how they're gonna enforce this stuff, quite frankly, but there's reporting requirements and whatnot. Just, I know we find ourselves kind of meeting all of our regulatory requirements here, so.
Absolutely. We're doing everything we can, and we're trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening with this, but it is a challenge for sure as we go through this transition period. Availability of the vehicles that meet our needs are in some cases don't exist yet.
Right. So the
Commercially available.
So Nevada County is low enough population that it qualifies as a low population county, and you got another 3 years before these regulations kick in. Placer County has a higher population, doesn't fall into that low population category. And then you get this situation where we're a bi-county, actually tri-county district, because we don't go down into El Dorado County, and they've got pretty specific language around how that works. So anyway.
So Paul, you alluded to 2027. This vehicle, if we purchase it, would be part of a phase in. How would it fall into what happens after 27?
So after 27, all new vehicles that you buy have to be 100% or zero emission vehicles. So
Okay.
all electric as of 2027, if we are applicable, or if we're able to utilize this exemption. So it does not mean that you have to eliminate all your existing fleet. So as long as it meets certain engine requirements, and please don't quote me on this, but I believe it's a diesel engine that was built after 2010, I think meets the requirement. There's a few other stipulations and things like that, but I don't believe you have to get rid of your existing fleet. So we can still get beneficial use of this vehicle long into the future.
Yeah, it has to do with buying new vehicles.
Okay.
But there is an exemption where if the vehicle you want to buy isn't available in an electric model, it's still okay to buy it. But you have to do some paperwork to demonstrate that. So if anyone ever comes to audit you, you can show that you did your homework on it.
Dale, any comments or questions?
Yeah, I got a comment. Thank you for asking, Scott. In regards to these pollution mandates, I think that we're going to see some revisions in these mandates that have been put on by the state. I think with the new administration and what's going on in the state of California, we're liable to see some easing of these mandates as we move forward. So I think that what we're dealing with now may not be the case dealing with what's coming down in the future.
So what I'm hearing, and please correct me, you're comfortable moving ahead with this?
I just want to make sure we've got the paperwork in place before we actually go out and, I guess, sign the purchase order, that we're in compliance. Either best case scenario is that I'm incorrect, and we do in fact qualify for the small county exemption, in which case we're good. If that's not the case, then I think there's other avenues to demonstrate. So I think probably still buy this vehicle and demonstrate we're in compliance with the new regulation. I would just want to make sure we've got that confirmed before we buy the vehicle in case, just, again, just.
Right. Is there any problem with waiting a month?
Necessarily, the vehicle won't actually be ready until June anyways, once they receive the purchase order. There's a slight chance that it could push into the next fiscal year upon receipt, if we wait, but that. Something will be worked out.
Yeah, so again, my goal isn't to delay things. I just want to make sure we're kind of meeting the
Doesn't sound like it
requirements that
would
are
be.
out there. What's that?
Doesn't sound like it would be a delay. To find this out before we approve it.
That would be the other way to go. I'm comfortable with staff, kind of doing that research and reporting back to us and having authorization to move forward now, so we don't hold things up. But if you were to find out that, that there is a problem, you know, so that would be another way to do it, would be to authorize it contingent on providing us,
I can go with that, yeah.
providing us, kind of clarity that we are in compliance with the zero emission vehicle, regulations.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. I think if there's not an exemption that exists, we might look at purchasing a different type of equipment, there's no removal.
It could affect the vehicle. So if someone says, if they're like, oh no, there is an electric F-350 available, but it's only got 2 hours battery life when you're doing snow removal, then it's not going to do the job.
Right.
You might want to go to a bigger vehicle.
Sure.
It doesn't exist in electric, but then it does comply with the requirements, you know, so there's ways to maneuver this so you can still get the job done. It's just, it hasn't gotten simpler. Yeah. So, and I know we, as an agency, kind of pride ourselves in, you know, compliance with all of our environmental requirements, and this is just a new one that's out there. So, like I said, hopefully I'm wrong.
So I'm hearing several different things.
So what I'd like to do is make a motion to authorize, the purchase of the F-350 dump truck, subsequent to staff providing a, follow-up memo to the board that demonstrates how we're in compliance with the zero emission vehicle, requirements.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Director Wilkins and a second by Director Cox. We'll do a roll call.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Smeltzer,
Yes.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
and Director Wilson.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Sorry for not calling you about that sooner, Paul.
No problem.
Yeah.
And now it looks like we have the staff department. reports.
Good morning, Board of Directors. Michael Cheek, Operations Department Manager, giving the January department report or December report. So for the Operations Department, all plant waste discharge requirements were met for the month. We did, plant performed well through the month, and we cleaned Digester 31's recirculation line. We had 2 completed work orders and 3 pending. You can see that, so I've got the remote. Moving on. This is just a photo of the recirculation line. We had that white material was a struvite precipitant that we get in the digester system. And we had to remove it. Do some modifications to keep good flow through there, so we can monitor the temperature of digester 31. Any questions on flows or the effluent limitations for the month? You see, we got monthly max instantaneous was 8.1 MGD. So we did have a decent amount of flow coming in for the month. We had a lot of people up, so good times for us.
Operations Department. So last month, a couple of questions came up about the effluent nitrification or the effluent total nitrogen, sorry. And also well 31. So we just did a quick set of charts to show you. Last month, I believe, Scott, you asked about the increase in effluent TN and how that impacted well 30, or has it impacted well 31. So this is the final effluent TN, which is in the board packet. And then we just did a quick 5-year same kind of graph with the well 31, which is not typically in the board packet. So you can see our upper limit for the year, or our average for the year, is the 3 milligrams per liter. And then the 2 milligram per liter is May 1st through October 31st. And you can see that we're well below those limits at well 31. And if you go back, even with the, if you go to 2024, you can see the nitrogen concentrations were up a little bit higher during the August-September period. But if you look at well 31, it doesn't really jump up. You don't see any, significant increases there with the effluent. So there's still that treatment that's happening in the ground. So, so is there any more questions on that? I know that was something you guys had asked about last month.
Thank you very much. I think you cleared it up for us.
Other than that, chemical costs for the year, the bar graph, and that's really it for the operations department. Is there any questions or comments?
Dale?
No
Any questions, comments? Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Morning, back again. All right, Paul Schaus, Maintenance Manager. For the month of December, we assist with digestion improvements project, nutrient removal project. We're still working on the SCADA server replacement project. We are about 60% complete on the 811 CMS integration project. We're still targeting the end of the month. And we have kicked off the Civic Clerk software implementation project, which will also begin in earnest at the end of this month. Plant maintenance activities for the month are just a few of the notable items that we worked on throughout the month. Inspected and cleaned the BNR and field pump strainer baskets, which you'll see pictures of later. We added isolation gates to our water press drain system, repaired more rodent damage to multiple fleet vehicles, replaced filter housing for Edwards 2 water line, Motors Air VFD startup and programming. That's been a long time coming. Installed UPS system for plant influent FlowDAR, or flow meter, I should say. Completed some our multi-factor authentication implementation for the last couple of books on that. So that's a really good one for our security systems here. We also repaired the exhaust fans throughout the facility, upgraded our first stage recurrent heat controller and modified digester 31 heat exchanger to add an isolation valve and remove an old inductor. We currently have no open recruitments. And moving on to the work orders, I'm sure you've noted that there's a little bit more detail here now. So added some additional detail regarding PMs. As we transition away from a lot of the projects that we've had going in the past year, we're going to be focusing a lot more on PM work, and hopefully that results in less corrective work. So that's the goal anyways. So it's a good story to tell, and hopefully we'll see that transition as we move in that direction. Let's see. Pictures. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got the clicker. All right, that's our newest, one of our newest E&I techs, Jason Sutherland, who just recently received his grade 2 certification. He did that full install, retrofitted an old VFD cabinet and programmed that. Great experience for him. Great way for him to familiarize himself with our systems and our plant. He's done an excellent job there. To the right there is our wash press drain system. That was causing a lot of problems for us. So we modified that. On the left is some of the road damage that we're seeing throughout the plant, just like the visual representation for us, so you can kind of see some of the stuff that we're encountering. To the right is a picture of one of our 3 BNR influent strainers. That's a pretty large unit. It's crane to pull that thing out of there, or the hoist up, I should say, pull the thing out of there. So,
It's like you had a mouse went to town or.
yeah, they're making a nest in there. So,
How many vehicles are being assaulted by these rodents?
oh, good question. 3, 4 in the regular.
Or they have their repeat customers on a couple of them.
Yeah. Wow. Some of them they just like more than others. I don't know if there's something in there that they really enjoy, or we've heard that there was some wire coating that they actually liked.
Is there some kind of a chasing, sonic thing? I have something in my garage to keep them out.
I've heard with limited success. We've also heard peppermint oil. We're kind of trying everything we can think of. So, limited success.
Army of cats.
Yeah, that may be the next step.
Wow.
Great scenario, coyotes.
I think that's all I have for you this morning.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. Dale, any comments or questions?
No comments, no questions. Thanks for asking.
I have a question. So 43% of your pendings are sitting in IT.
Right.
Any major issues there? You hear all these things in the news about the Chinese taking over everybody's computer systems and all that stuff. Could you elaborate on the type of things that are sitting in that category?
So what you're seeing there, unfortunately, is still due to a cleanup effort. There was a lot of pending work orders that the work has already been complete. The work orders have not been closed. So that does show up there. I would say the vast majority of those work orders have been done. So we're spending a lot of time and effort going through and allocating time to get those flushed out of the system. While we are seeing attacks. Without getting into specifics, we have had a fair amount of attacks in the past year, which have prompted us to increase our security protocols. And we are still increasing, looking at engaging more services from one of our security providers. We've installed hardware appliances and implemented more stringent security protocols for our staff.
Okay, so sense of urgency is there.
Absolutely.
Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Board of Directors, Jason Yates, I'm the Services Manager. So in the engineering department, we've got tons of projects going on. There's gonna be a couple added here in the next month. I'll give you a little preview on those, but we're continuing work on the digestion improvements project. We are gonna be asking one of our senior engineers to give a presentation next month that gives you guys a really extensive look at where we're at, what decisions are being made, how it's gonna impact how we operate the facility, all that stuff. It's a pretty in-depth project that's needed to be done for a while. So making good progress there. The TRI relining project between Alpine and Olympic still progressing, still on schedule to be completed late this summer. It is a nest and there's a lot of challenges associated with permitting and coordinating with other agencies, and we've got a great team working on it. So we're gonna hopefully navigate all that. The nutrient removal alternative study, we had originally planned on bringing you that study today. That got pushed a month, and now next month, attendance from staff and from potentially some board members. We want to make sure everyone's nice and present for that one. So we're gonna get the popcorn out and have Cruello here give us the completed product. It's gonna be a substantial study, so we'll make sure to get that to board members as early as we can, so you guys can comb through it a bit and provide you with some high-level takeaways so that we can have a really good conversation about it and start moving one direction or another. But that's been going along. We have site layout pretty well figured out. The layout of the treatment facility, the layout of ancillary support facilities. rough idea of power demand, how we're gonna supply all that stuff. So that's moving along. We are actually, this week, we're gonna be having some discussions about aesthetics, which has gotta be the vote, right? So we're getting there. So that'll be another thing we'll ask for reporting on, obviously. So that's coming. Freight and transport study, we're learning a ton about this, disposal field that we didn't know, or we knew, and the report that knew it got lost or was wild somewhere in the 1980s, and we hadn't seen it. So, been very good. We're not running into anything that's earth-shattering or frightening or concerning. We are just compiling all the data, get it all ready to go to send off to Lahontan. This again, just so we remember, this is kind of phase one of the two-phase study. We're going to take the information that we have available at this point, compile it, and see if we can generate any trend information, see if we can generate a useful data analytics for the board to use, the Water Quality Control Board. And then we will ship that off to them and get input from them on if and what next steps look like. If there is a next step that will likely result in a little bit more substantial study than this, where there's actually going to be sample analysis happening, there's going to be some geologists out there in the field looking at the current conditions. So we'll keep you guys informed on that, and we'll bring phase two proposals to you before we move forward on that. We also have coming soon, the digital scanning on the entirety of the TRI will be this summer, so we're kind of spooling up that project. And we are also getting ready to potentially coordinate with the town on some manhole replacements on the bike path. So lots of stuff coming, and we have not forgotten about landscaping and parking improvements. That will be going out to bid shortly. We will give you guys information starting next month. Start bidding it out. Any questions on engineering before I move on?
Dale?
No questions.
Laboratory, so the laboratory just wrapped up their method update rule package. So method update rule is the federal government has a set of methods you're allowed to use for testing, and those get updated very slowly. And when they do, you have to modify all your procedures and stuff to match the new stuff. So labs completed with that, they actually just got acceptance 2 days ago for this. So the lab director is scheduling the on-site assessment for hopefully a March-April timeline. Should give plenty of time. The completed assessment and all the package stuff is due at the end of the calendar year. So she's being really preemptive on that, getting it done early. And she is still conducting a lot of record training. So as we all know, we have operations staff doing some limited testing weekends, holidays, and we want to make sure that we're keeping everyone kind of in the loop on any changes, any kind of equipment, gets moved out, or any kind of software changes happen where it's a constant process, keeping everyone trained. Plus there's requirements to keep trained. So on public outreach, operations provided support for Truckee Elementary during the 5th grade tour. And we have a couple of tours coming up pretty quick here. I believe Truckee Expedition. So, and we've also reached out to a number of people that showed interest from the general public. Hopefully we can get enough of a group together that we can kind of just have an open tour for people.
I've got a question, and it kind of dovetails with what McKaylin was talking about in regards to parcel numbers and other identifying information. As we continue to move forward, it seems like we're getting with the land swaps and things like that. It looks like a lot of that information might be coming in to help us with specific.
So as we navigate the land swap, we're dealing with kind of a limited number of APNs.
Okay.
We're dealing with one that's been split from the airport side and one from our side.
Okay,
So we won't be getting information associated with like the APN this property is on, or the larger ones to the west of here.
okay,
But we will be getting some information. I would say that the remainder of clarifying all that is gonna be a separate task.
thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? Dale?
No, no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Good morning again. At least this time it's still morning. It's not afternoon yet. So now that I'm the CFO / risk manager, I've decided to add safety to the finance and administration monthly report. And you may see some different iterations of information coming through as I work through coming up to speed with safety at this agency. And as we evolve some different KPIs for the accounting team, you may see some changes coming up to this for today. The report for safety is that we had our quarterly safety meeting. The committee met in here and reviewed what they needed to review. For finance, we completed all of our general tasks. In addition, we attended finance committee meetings, prepared packets, mostly status quo, and we completed the FY 24 audit so that we could present it here today. That was the heaviest lift. Same in finance and administration, but looking at billing and customer service. New accounts were activated, again, status quo on most things. We did update the connection fees for the agency permit portal. As you all approved prior months, we had a January 1 effective date of an increase in our connection fees. That was successful. We did see a little bit of a mad dash at the end of December, so some folks could get in at a lower price. Still coming in January, so nothing to report them. We are preparing for the biannual billing that is taking place in January. So she sent out the next 6 months of the direct bills. And she did 4 commercial property inspections. I will say I got to go along on one and have a little field trip. That was fun. Finance doesn't usually get out of the office, so it was nice to see what they do every day. Below there, we have our connection fees paid, and we have some more reports to support that. Coming up. Purchasing maintained their general responsibilities as well as the additional front desk responsibilities that they're managing right now. Front desk, gates, customer service. And as always, we performed our administrative tasks at the pleasure of the general manager and the board and provided answers to questions that we were asked. We have some photos. Again, finance and photos don't always go together, so I tried really hard to get something to show. These were some of the inspections that Celeste went on. The Mountain Brew and Truckee and the Kings Beach Station. That's the one that I got to go on. I'm the one that took the picture. Give myself credit for that. Oh, and that's all I have. I'm so excited. I kept clicking through the general managers.
In regards to the connection fees,
Yes.
I like that when the landing page for our website, it's at the top.
Yes,
And I had comments yesterday from NTPUD that they appreciated that.
good.
So,
Very happy to hear that. We worked diligently to inform everyone, and it was an effort that we had multiple public meetings about, but they happened a few months ago. So we wanted to make sure that we reminded everyone now's the time. Okay, any questions?
Dale, any questions, sir?
Nope, I'm good.
Thank you, Liz.
So obviously we continue to have various meetings on master plan, rehab, rehabilitation project, nutrient removal, update on the trucking, airport land exchange, the paperwork's at title, we're moving forward. Got caught up a little bit with the certificate of compliance. We've shifted gears a little bit on that, so we truly hope that it'll be wrapped up next month. We can finally bring that one home to completion. Obviously, as highlighted, digestion improvement continues to move forward. Highlight sludge hauling with TTSD, working on a new contract with TTSD to provide our hauling for our sludge and screenings. We've met with the class and comp observation group, given an update of where we're at. We continue to wait for some information to come back from Gallagher based on meetings that we've had and reviewing the data. And they are actively working on that right now. We had the local general managers meeting, Truckee River Revitalization Steering Committee, safety meeting as mentioned, agency continued to do outreach. We did holiday drives this year again, which were very successful. And as mentioned, we've done the auctions of the vehicles as well as other surplus items. And then as Jason mentioned, we have the upcoming workshop for the nutrient removal in March, which will be very informative, I think, presentation by Corolla. And then we are planning a management strategic planning workshop for the 24th of January. And then once we complete that, we'll work with the board to schedule the board strategic planning workshop that we discussed at a prior meeting. Picture of our coat drive, toy drive, food drives. Any questions for me?
Any questions?
Nope.
Dale?
I'm good.
I didn't the donations end up being like $3,000 across the board?
Monetary between the drives for the food, the seniors and high fives were $3,000.
Yeah.
And then we collected, I think it was 62 coats and I think 42 toys, something like that.
It's great. It's great. It's nice to participate. Good job. Great pictures. Okay. Any board of directors comments, questions at this point?
Yeah, I got a question if I may. It's a little off text here for TTSA, but I wanted to ask Dan when the ribbon cutting ceremony is for their water purification facility over there in Chambers Landing.
It's not on the schedule yet. I'm guessing it'll be in the springtime.
In the spring?
That's what I'm expecting, yeah.
Yeah. What is the total cost of that, Dan?
A lot. Like, yeah. I think in excess of, in the $25 million range.
How many?
25.
25?
Yeah, because it was a treatment plant. It was also a whole bunch of pipeline and new lake intakes and new pumps in Lake Tahoe. There was a whole bunch of kind of underwater work associated with the project, and the staff could give you more details than I can, but yeah, there was a lot to that.
Yeah, well, my hat goes off to you and John Pang and the rest of the directors over there for taking on such a complex project. I'm interested in seeing and going to the ribbon cutting and getting a little bit more information just for myself. I don't want to be nosy, Dan, but this is a monumental thing that you guys have taken on, and I want a little bit more information on it.
You bet. Yeah, there's Sarah Husan Johnson, who's the project manager on that. She could give you a tour of the facility if you're interested when you're back in town.
Yeah, I'd like that. I'd really like that. So you're saying that in the spring, it's going to be ready to turnkey?
Yeah, they're in the process of commissioning it. So the bulk of the construction's done. And now they're in the process of getting it kind of fine-tuned and operational. And they're expecting it to be ready to kind of use on a regular basis in the spring.
Yeah, well, like I say, that's a monumental undertaking. My hat goes off to you and the board over there for taking on such a grandiose project. It's really award-winning as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it was tough because we knew it was going to be expensive. Pretty much all the water for in the Tahoe City PUD area comes from wells historically. And, you know, if you have an issue with a well and then you have a water supply problem, it can be tough to deal with. So we basically made the decision to have the ability to draw water from Lake Tahoe, like North Tahoe PUD does, and use that as a water source if we were to ever have issues with our wells over there.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. We'll talk more about it. I didn't want to give you a call and pick your brain. I thought I'd see you at this meeting, and what I'm interested more than anything is when it's ready to start operation, I'd like not a cook's tour, but just to be able to go through it and see how it all goes down.
Yep. Thanks for your interest, Dale.
No further comments.
Thank you, Dale. I think that's the end of the public part of it. Now we'll move into adjourn and move into the closed session. Let's take a 5-minute break and come back to the closed session.
And it's appropriate, no go to Spain.
That's a good question.
Legal counsel's direction would be, since he's not sworn in yet,